Hey friends, welcome back to Aora. Our little Orlan con artist Tamwen has found herself a couple of traveling companions and a dog. But before they continue their journey, we're going to go ahead and level everybody up. Skills for Tamwen is easy. We're just piling everything into mechanics for a while. I'm going to give her escape for her new rogue ability, because we like her at a distance using her pistol, and if she gets trapped in melee range, this will help her leap right out of there. Next, we will level up Aloth. Leveling up a wizard can seem a little bit complicated at first, because there are so many spells to choose from. First, skills. I'm just going to give him the stuff that everybody needs: survival, stealth, and athletics. Survival gives you bonuses when you rest. Athletics gives you this ability, Second Wind, that heals you in the middle of battle. And then stealth basically just keeps you from accidentally starting combat when you did not intend to be seen. So everybody can use that. And then I'm also going to give him some lore so that he can use more different kinds of scrolls. So for his first level 1 spell, I'm going to make what might not seem like a really sexy choice, and I'm going to give him Thrust of Tattered Veils. It is not like a really powerful spell, but what it does is it disrupts enemy spellcasters a lot of the time, and there are quite a few really dangerous spellcasters that we run into early on in the game. So I want to make sure that we have as good a chance against them as possible. For his talent, I'm going to give him Arcane Veil to boost his deflection. He's a little bit squishy, and I'd rather him not drop dead because he has some pretty cool spells he can wield if he is, alive. We get to level him up again because he's level 3 now. So I'm just going to give him some more lore, and then we'll save those other 3 points for later. Now we get a level 2 spell. This is a bit of a tough choice for me because there's quite a lot of good ones. But here's the thing about wizards. Well, first of all, I get 2 choices here out of all of these. The thing about wizards is you can also kill other wizards, steal their grimoires, and learn spells from there. So you don't have to pick all of his stuff from character creation screen only. I'm going to go with Console Hot's Corrosive Siphon for 2 reasons, one of which is more practical than the other. This is a corrosive damage over time, and not damage over time, I don't think. Just one-time corrosive damage, but it converts into endurance for you, so that'll keep him alive a little longer. And then I'm also going to give him Mirrored Image, just another way of protecting him if he gets caught in a melee fight. You can see he's carrying his little grimoire with him. So Tamwen has her new friends, and she's decided she wants to go back out into the wilderness for a bit. There are a couple of things that she caught sight of on the way here but didn't want to investigate when she was alone. There was a wall that was too hard for her to climb up by herself, and then she also heard rumors of this bear that had killed a guy's friend. And she's curious to test out her new beefy warrior-looking friend and see if he's any good against something like, a man-eating bear. Let's find out. So here we are back in Valewood, which she passed through on her way here. Oh, I forgot to level up our beefy warrior guy. Let's do that real quick. He's pretty simple. We're just going to give him basic stuff and then focus on athletics mostly. This is a bit of a choice between, do we want him to regenerate more endurance during the fight, or do we want to get him a bonus knockdown? I'm going to go with a bonus knockdown because I just never get tired of using that. More athletics for you. This is going to give him a really nice second wind. And then I'm going to go with Guardian's stance. This increases allies' deflection. Again, he's traveling with some very squishy people, so the more deflection we have, the better. Just a little review of what deflection is, if I can get the... Yeah. It resists direct melee and ranged attacks against the character, so not AoE, but anytime they're targeting you and hitting you directly, you're going to need deflection. Okay, now we are done leveling him up. We want him to go first, so I'm going to make a little custom formation. Going to put him in the lead since we're not in stealth. But I also like to make a second formation where I have our stealth person in front and then everybody else way behind. And that's one that I'll just use when we're kind of in scouting mode. But for right now, we're just going to go blundering through the woods because there's nothing really much hidden here to find except in one place, which I'll know when I get there. Our guys have a bit of combat AI going on, so I don't actually have to micromanage them too much unless it's a difficult fight. I tend to just go with the default AI setup unless there's something about it that's really not working well, and then I can go in and adjust things. If we need to do that, I'll show you how that works later. But for now, I'm just going to go with the default. So here's the bear cave. We are not going to be stealthy here. We're going to just charge right in, and Eder wants to engage the bear ASAP. Let's try and knock it down.
LAVARU.
You will occasionally hear Aloth chant things as he casts spells, and one of them is LAVARU BION, which means words cut flesh, which is just about the coolest thing I've ever heard a mage say in my life. Actually made it my part of my Mastodon bio. You can follow me on Mastodon, by the way, if you haven't already. You can see that Eder is regenerating a bit there as he fights. That's a warrior ability. But he's going to knock the bear down and just finish it off. Okay. His endurance will regenerate itself now that he's not fighting. Oh, look, there's that swirly violet light, which you may recall Tamwen seeing on the dwarf that was hanging from the tree. So Tamwen's like, guys, can you hang on a second, because this body is, let's just say it's talking to me. So now she can see the spirit, she reaches out to it, and she kind of has a repeat of the experience with the dwarf, where she's having visions of things, and in this case, what she sees is this guy, Pearly, trying to run from the bear, and his friend, Nonton, that we met before, slashes his hamstring so he can't get away before running, and the bear gets him. So the corpse is lying there, and the specter is questioning, it's confused and angry, and Tamwen says, I met him on the road, your friend. And then the spirit lashes out in anger, and Tamwen says, you're dead, spirit. There's nothing for you here. It roils with thwarted anger and grief. Sorrow seems to seep into the very air of the cavern, and then the spirit dims and fades until you're alone once more. Tamwen is not quite a compassionate enough soul to promise the spirit that she would get revenge, because she's undecided about whether she wants to do that just yet. Tamwen, by default, she tends to mind her own business unless there's some kind of benefit in it for her. But she is pretty curious about why that guy she met on the road would murder his friend. Before she goes back to town, though, she wants to find there was a wall that was just a little bit too much for her tiny, weak self to climb. But she thought she saw a body at the top of the wall, and you know, where there's bodies, there's loot. So she's like, hey, Eder, you know, while I'm showing you around, well, first can you kill this wolf, and then can you maybe help me get up that wall? Eventually I'm going to get into more positioning stuff, flanking in battles, but right now we really only have one melee guy, so who is apparently really into Aethys. Yeah, you might recall that Aethys is the god that Eder worships, and that is sometimes a bit of an issue. Okay, let's see. This is a perception thing, and Tamwen is actually maxed out on perception, and I don't think is going to need any more. Eder has a good cloak on already, I think. Or somebody does. Was that me? Anyway, for now I'm just going to toss these in the stash, and I'll assign stuff later. So, here's this wall. And she's going to ask Eder to climb it, because she's just a little tiny weakling. But it's no problem for him, because I gave him a bunch of athletics. And once he's there, he can reach down and help the little gal up. And here we have a couple of things. We've got some ingredients for enchanting or potions or whatever. And then this guy has some loot on him. These are dexterity gloves, which I will go ahead and give to, well, I thought I was giving it to Tamwen. I don't know where it just went. We got camping supplies. That's always good. And then here's a little letter you can read if you wish. You can always go back and pause and read that if you like, to get some background on where those gloves came from. And there's some blood moss there too for us. And now we can just easily climb back down. And there's one more little bit of Valewood that we can check out. Tamwen is feeling a lot safer now that she has a couple of guys flanking her as she walks through here. So even though she's not the kindest and most sociable of people at all times, she is practical, and she understands that there is strength in numbers. So here we've run into another Xaurip. A little family of them here that we'll make short work of. Xaurips are sort of lizard people who seem to worship dragons. They are classified as wilder rather than kith because while they have, as you can see, some sort of trappings of basic civilization, they haven't joined the greater kind of society in Aora. And it says here that it looks like they've been building their shelters out of dragon bones. There's one of the hidden things. I didn't even need to be stealth to see it. I think because of her high perception, maybe. But here you've got some semi-precious stones that you can use for enchanting and other stuff. All right, so now we're going to head back to Gilded Vale. Oops, that wasn't what I meant to do. I'm trying to do that thing where I find the spot on the map, and then it's triangle button, and then it's triangle button again, and then I press down on the on the right stick. One more try. Triangle, triangle, right stick. There we go. Pressing down on the right stick on the PlayStation, it toggles whether the camera follows them or not. We are headed back to Gilded Vale, and the first thing Tamwen is going to do is find Nonton, whom she met on the road and warned her about the bear. And yet, instead of warning his friend, he slashed his hamstring and ran. So there's a story there that Tamwen wants to know. Whether she'll do anything about it or not remains to be seen. But she is a curious little kitty. She also has very sharp ears. I'm going to assume that's how she finds Nonton, as she's just wandering through the town and she hears him in conversation with someone inside a certain house. And once her orlan ears pick that up, she's going to say to her friends, you know, hey, I know that guy. Let's go in here and say hello. You must gather your party before venturing forth. Yes, let us proceed. Oh, I can... There's a book in here. If you want to take a look at it, more lore and history and stuff. Now she walks in, Nonton is speaking to a woman, and they're about to embrace, and then the woman sees us, and she pauses, and her smile falters.
Gods keep you.
She says, do you know this woman, Nonton? Yes, I think we met in the Valewood. I warned her about the bear. Glad to see you've made it. Was there something else you wanted? And Tamwen slyly says, you two seem to be in a hurry. The woman says, oh, yes, we're packing for a trip, actually. I've been meaning to visit Defiance Bay, and, well, in truth, I think I've had my fill of this town. Nonton takes her hand and says, it's time for some new scenery. So Tamwen just can't handle the smugness of this guy, thinking that she, you know, that he's getting away with murder, literally. So she says, I know what really happened in that bear cave, Nonton. The color drains from his face. I don't know what you mean. I told you the truth of it. The woman says, are you accusing him of something? If this is about the accident, we're both grieving Pearlie's loss, but it was a wild animal's doing. Tamwen just, for once, is very straightforward and says, I had a vision in the cave. I saw Pearlie's last moments as he lived them. I saw you cut him with the knife. Now, he's shocked by this, but, she's telling the truth, so he knows she really saw it. So he's freaking out, and his hand goes to his sword belt. He says, how could you know that? She says, wait. And then she addresses Tamwen and says, I don't know what you saw, but this isn't what you think. Pearly, my husband, he was as much a beast as that bear. I tried to leave the first time I suffered his temper, but he wouldn't have it. Nonton, we met, and I knew I'd found someone special, someone kind who cared for me. Please, all we want is to leave this place, to start somewhere else. We've some coins saved up. You could have it if you'll only let us go. Now she's talking Tamwen's language. So she says, sounds fair enough. Hand it over. Oh, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for your compassion. Yeah, it was totally compassion and not greed at all. Only 50 copper, but, Tamwen's starting to see maybe some benefits to this whole Watcher thing if she can find out people's secrets and get them to pay her to keep quiet.
Isn't this something?
Okay, what we've got here, various drugs, some tools, more camping supplies, some money. Now, since we are full up, we can only have 4 camping supplies at maximum. We are currently full. So camping isn't allowed here. Well, I'm going to remember there's an extra set. Normally what I do when I don't have room for new camping supplies is I just camp wherever I am, use one up, and then you get your resting bonus and all your spells back, and then you can pick up the camping supplies. But let's remember there's one in Ingrod's house in case we need it. So Tamwen's doing a little more sightseeing. There's a sort of a picturesque windmill up this way. But there's something going on up here. There's a dwarf and he's yelling at the door. We know there's more grain in there, Trumbull. We won't settle for scraps while you grow fat on our crops. From inside, they're shouting, the first of you drunkards comes through that door gets a shot between the eyes. Gods hear me, Swainer. I'll put you down like a dog. Swainer says, come away for now, lads, but we'll be back, Trumbull, and we'll have fair prices, or by the flame, we'll have a reckoning. Sounds like he might be a Magran worshipper. By the flame, he says. She's the god of fire and war. Tamwen smells another story here, so maybe there's profit in it somehow. Let's check it out. An elven man stands before you, stocky, sort of a laborer type of guy. His face is pale and drawn, his eyes are wide, and then there's a younger man and woman behind him looking worried. Trumbull raises his club as I enter and says, get back if you value your life. Tamwen says, hold on, I'm not here to hurt anyone. He hesitates and then lowers the club. Wait, I know you. You just came into town, right? You're that orlan that saved, what's his name? At the Black Hound, yeah. Don't tell me Swainer's already got his claws into you. Gods, that's all I need. She says, what was all that ruckus outside? Where to begin? Swainer's whipped them into a froth going on about the grain stores. Claims I've hidden away most of it. All I do with the grain is sell it. I can't create it out of thin air, and I can't hand it out for free. I pay the farmers for the crops they bring in, and I sell what comes out of the mill. Most of it goes to the Black Hound on the west side of town for ale, and Swainer and his lot sure don't mind that part. You take a look at the fields on the way into town. The crop's blighted, and most of what I'm getting from the farmers is gone off, rotted through. I can't pay top prices for blighted wheat, and I've barely got enough good grain to go around. Swainer's howling after things he has no right to. Tamwen says, seems like a pretty clean story for a messy situation. It's not. Look, Swainer's always been a rotten bastard. With stores so limited, maybe I save the good stuff for people who deserve it. Alfra, for instance, over on the west side of town, she's expecting a child. Should I let her starve instead? Tamwen says, maybe I ought to go have a talk with Swainer then. Oh, I'd be grateful if you did. He won't listen to me anymore, but maybe you'll have better luck. Tell him we're all having a hard time of it, and we'll all have to make some sacrifices. We'll be in your debt for it if you can convince him. Tamwen likes the sound of debt. Yeah. Let's go, see if she can use her persuasive abilities on this guy. She's also made note of the fact that he mentioned a woman named Alfra. Actually, I believe that would be pronounced Avra. I've sort of made a study of some of the linguistics of this little fantasy world, and a lot of times the F sound, the letter F is actually a V sound. Like in Aloth's last name, we heard him pronounce it in an earlier episode, Corvisor, which I like. It sounds a little raveny. So this is the house that Alfra lives in. Make a note of that. But for right now, we're headed to the Blackhound Inn, which is where Swainer will likely be drinking away his troubles. Just a second. Okay, just checking something. Ah, the Blackhound Inn with its greasy windows. Here's Swainer.
Good day to you.
He says, "Don't know who you are, don't much care. Keep walking, we're not here to chat with foreigners." Aloth narrows his eyes. "Careful, looks like they're cut from the same cloth as those rowdies who attacked me." He wrinkles his nose. Smells like it, too. Tamwen says, "I saw you outside of the mill. What was that about?" "Well, someone fancies themselves a meddler, eh? What's that about?" "It's about Trumbull thinking he's king of the town on account of he's got the mill to his name. It's about him barely giving us anything for the wheat we bring him and then cutting our purses when we need to buy grain. It's about farmers going hungry while some bastard gets rich off their crops. That's what it's fucking about. Now shove off." And, there's not like a really Tamwen-esque option here. But she is, as a con artist, she's used to sort of, getting on people's good side when she needs to. So she says, "What if I buy you all around? Will you talk to me then?" He considers it and looks to the others. "Fair enough. You bring us something to wet our throats, and maybe I'll feel like trading words." The personality things, they kind of come in pairs that are sort of opposites. The main ones that I like for her are deceptive and clever, so she will never be honest or stoic. But the others, I might be a little wishy-washy on. She says, "I'd like to buy around for the fine fellows over there." "Fine fellows? You're having me on. Any more fighting and I'll have to ban Swainer from the inn entirely. Until then, it's 6 copper pieces for the lot." "Please, if I can just get them talking, I might be able to convince them to stop harassing the miller." "Well, that's all right then. Here, 3 drinks for the 3 fools. You get them off Trumbull's back, and maybe he'll be a little less stingy with his supplies." So she gets her free beers.
Greetings.
I've brought drinks. "Hey, so you have, by the flame. I never thought I'd be so happy for a mug of the Blackhound's shit beer." "God, that's good. All right, then. You've got my attention. What is it you got to say that's worth a round of drinks? And she says, look, there's no sense in threatening the miller. You have him up against a wall. Maybe you could ask some of the other villagers for help. Swainer eyes you for a moment and says, you're right. Things go on like they are. We're just going to end up hanging from that tree out there. Tell Trumbull we'll leave him be. Don't know what we'll do now with the crops failing. Think Pasha needs a hand around the inn? So, her job is done. She didn't even have to pay for the drinks. And she's thinking she'll get a little something from Trumbull. And I'll wrap up after this just because, as you can hear, I'm losing my voice again. This is just the way my voice is these days. So back in the mill we go.
Greetings.
So, Trumbull says, you're back. You had any luck with Swainer? I spoke to Swainer. And what did he say? I've convinced him to leave your family in peace. What? Really? That's great news. I wasn't sure you'd get through to him. They're out of their minds with drink half the time. I owe you a great debt. Here, today's earnings to show my appreciation. And you can be sure I'll let everyone know what you've done for me. Tamwen, of course, says, that's really all you can afford after I saved your family? No, of course, that's fair. Here, I saved some coin just in case we... Well, here it is, anyway. We don't need it now. Now we stand a chance of getting through the year. All thanks to you. Safe travels, friend. Nice, and she even got a little extra with that silver tongue of hers. Now she's curious about the pregnant lady that he mentioned, who lives in the house on the west side of town. So that's where she's headed next. And this is going to lead us to some rather interesting story and some new places. So I'm going to save that for next episode. Thanks for tagging along with me, and hopefully I'll see you next time.